Yes, I do. I want the most honest and transparent debate about immigration, legal or illegal, that we can possibly have. And it is wrong that the government or other agencies hide statistics. And so, following your very important campaign, I have laid an amendment to the upcoming criminal justice bill, which tackles one of these issues, and it says that the government must publish statistics on crimes and sentences by country of origin and by visa and asylum status. And so if the government accepts this, or we win in Parliament, then from now on, we will have this information. And we don't know what this will show. It may be that it shows that there are some surprisingly interesting statistics, that some people coming to our country are extremely law-abiding, more law-abiding than British citizens, or it may show the opposite. But what matters here is that we have the information and that we can have an honest debate as we set policy.
It's worth noting as well that we've been in communication with the Ministry of Justice on this. They initially said to us that they do hold the information, but it would cost too much money to be able to get it. We offered to pay for it. They've said, no, you can't pay for it. We're just not getting it. So I think the nation is really relying on your thing going through that. What's the kind of uptake been on it? How are you seeing that come to fruition? What would be the process in order to get that across the line?
Well, we've laid the amendment and I've asked all MPs whether they would like to support me, and we've already had dozens of members of Parliament putting their names to it from all sections and wings of the Conservative Party, from Jacob Rees-Mogg to Robert Buckland. And I think that shows just how important it is that we actually have a proper, honest debate that is based on facts. And so it is incumbent on the government to get those facts into the public domain. I think that the public want to know who's coming into our country and what the economic, the fiscal and the societal impact of immigration is. And as I say, some of that will undoubtedly be positive.
Yeah.
Some will not. And we just need to make sure the facts are in the public domain.
Absolutely. Just when you were Immigration Minister, you must have seen a bit behind the curtain. I know that we've spoken previously about some nefarious characters that unfortunately have made their way to our shores. Do you have any idea at all? Do you think that there is stuff that needs to be put out there when it comes to the potential for asylum seekers, some asylum seekers, to be committing crimes, really?
I do, and I did see some very concerning incidents, for example, at the asylum hotels or the accommodation that the Home Office was housing people in, individuals committing sexual assault. And I think it's important that we actually get this information out into the public domain for the first time. There are people coming to this country who do us harm. There are people coming from countries who don't share our Western liberal values and attitudes towards women and minorities, and we need to be open and honest about that. And there are other countries around the world, Denmark, for example, that publishes data. I was recently in Texas and in the United States. They publish data about the crimes and offences being caused by illegal migrants. Let's do the same here in the UK and have an honest debate.
Yeah, it's about that, isn't it? It's about honest debate. It's about having all of the information at our disposal so we can have that debate. Let's talk about some of the people that we know about who are already here, who are committing offences. Now, you have unearthed some quite astonishing statistics, actually, which I will let you run through, but this is about hyper-prolific offenders and their rate of reoffending. Go on.
Well, look, we all want to live in a safer country. One of the ways to tackle that is to address those people who are committing the most crimes. And the statistics are really shocking. They show that more than 50% of all of the convictions for criminal offences in this country are done by just 9% of people.
Remarkable.
And there are even people who are committing 45 offences, a single individual, in the last 12 months. That is completely wrong. We've got to address this properly
without
for the
being
first
sent
time.
to prison.
Without being sent to prison. And prison is for many different things. It's for punishment, it's for rehabilitation, but it's also for public safety and to get the most prolific and dangerous people off the streets of our country. And so what I'm calling for is a different approach to the one we've had in recent years. It is that we lock up more of these prolific offenders and just get them off our streets, keep the public safe. And to do that, we will need to build more prisons, But I don't flinch from that. I think we have to embrace that if it is a way of keeping the public safe. And so what I'm calling on the government today is to build more prisons, to embrace a national mission of building more prisons, getting the most dangerous and prolific offenders off the streets and keeping the public safe.
Conceivably, I know it will not be as black and white as this, but conceivably then, if the worst 9% were locked up, there is the potential for crime to be reduced by about 52%.
Yeah, I think it would have a very big and immediate impact on crime.
Yeah.
And it's also a statement about what kind of country we want to live in. I think you and I would agree that we want to live in a country where people are given a second chance. I don't think people necessarily should be given a third or fourth or fifth chance. I certainly don't think people should be given a 45th chance. And so let's have a fundamentally different approach to crime, locking up these prolific offenders and keeping the public much more safe.
I've read with some interest, or listened to, I should say, with some interest, a piece that you did with Alison Pearson, who's a regular panellist on this show. It appeared, my understanding from this, was that you had to do quite a bit of convincing for Rishi Sunak when it comes to him taking immigration seriously and actually looking to cut it in any way, shape or form. Does he really take it seriously, do you think, when it comes to mass immigration?
Well, I didn't feel that the Prime Minister understood the importance of legal migration to the British public. It was an issue that I have cared about for a long time. I shared that conviction with Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary at the time. She and I met the Prime Minister approximately every fortnight to talk about Home Office issues like stopping the boats, like security and policing. Never once did we have a conversation about legal migration because the Prime Minister didn't want to talk about it. And so ultimately, the conversation that I had with him in November and early December was after I'd made it clear to him and the people around him that this was unsustainable. I wasn't willing to continue in my role as Immigration Minister unless we tackled legal migration. And we did as a result of that. We announced within days of having a proper meeting a significant set of measures that will cut legal migration by 300,000. But again, to me, that was a beginning, not an end. And since I left office, we've seen no further measures, whilst I think we need to get that down to the tens of thousands, something much more sustainable for this country.
I think people will find it absolutely astonishing, especially for a Conservative Prime Minister. There appeared to be no real appetite to engage in the migration discussion, despite himself saying numerous times publicly that, you know, he really did have it as one of his top priorities. He wanted to reduce net migration. Look, there's a lot of noises, Mr Jenrick, about whether or not the Prime Minister will see it to the next election and what could happen to the Conservative Party after the next election if he does. Would you consider running for leader of the Tory party or being Prime Minister?
Well, I don't think that is the question at the moment. We have a Prime Minister in Rishi Sunak. And the point I've tried to make since I resigned is actually that this isn't primarily about personalities. It's about the course of the country. And I think there needs to be a change of course. And one of those areas is in immigration. We're clearly going down the wrong path. We're living in a country with net migration of 600,000 or 700,000, and we're not stopping the boats. In fact, the numbers crossing the Channel are currently increasing. So whatever happens before or after the next general election, what matters to me is that we have a fundamentally different approach to some of these key issues. And as we just discussed a moment ago, I would add to that crime, because I want a fundamentally different approach to how we keep our streets safe and we tackle those persistent offenders.
Just so I'm clear on something before I let you get going, then when you were having your fortnightly meetings with the Prime Minister, predominantly about illegal immigration, would you try to talk about legal immigration and it was just battered away?
Yes. You know, both Suella and I wrote on a number of occasions, often together, sometimes on our own. I wrote privately to the Prime Minister, setting out the case for reducing legal migration, and we didn't routinely get responses to those letters. I think that the Prime Minister, like others, took the view that legal migration didn't matter, and that Brexit, if it was anything, was about taking back control, but not bringing down the numbers. I disagree with that. I think that Brexit was one of a number of votes by the British public throughout my lifetime, which has been about not just taking control of the levers, but using them to bring down the level of net migration to this country and building a different economic model based on investing in our own people and productivity, not just importing foreign labour. That's what we need to do now. That is the future of the Conservative Party.